Welcome back to the Woodworking Talk Show, the podcast where we occasionally talk about woodworking. Once again, this episode is sponsored by me, Steve Ramsey, also known as this guy in the comment sections of my videos. If you've been thinking about making things out of wood, but don't think you have the space, or don't think you have the time, or don't think you have the skills, you don't have enough money, excuses, I want to tell you about the Weekend Woodworker, the #1 step-by-step method for learning woodworking available online. Think of this as your first step into a lifelong habit of reorganizing your entire workspace every time you buy a new tool. Simone, you've had to organize a few things over the years. Give me your best storage or organization tip.
I am awful at organizing. I am sorry. I'm not the person to answer this. I'm just always like, I'm fortunate now to work with people who help me organize things. And I was talking to my assistant Anna the other week, and I was like, doesn't it feel like working with a toddler? Because I just leave a string of things after me. Like I start a project, leave it half finished on the workbench, and it's just in a pile. Before we're organizing things, I think just labeling things clearly so you remember where they go. But I'm a whirlwind.
It's easy. You still have to put everything back. That's the problem. I will always face that same problem too. You see, I need somebody like you have that can say, is that where you found that?
Yeah.
And put it back where it belongs.
I think mostly my best tip for doing things and not procrastinating, like cleaning things up or picking up something that fell on the floor, is I'm like, is there going to be a time in the future when it's going to be easier to do this? And often the answer is no. Like, this is probably the time. Like, it's the easiest to wash the paintbrush before it's dried, right. So I just, that's like my self-check of like, is it going to be easier to wash this pot tomorrow, or is it going to be easier now? And often the answer is no, it's going to be the easiest now.
I can't tell you how many paintbrushes I've bought just because I didn't feel like washing one. It's horrible about that.
I'll leave them in a jar of water and then they'll get all mushy and soaked and weird, and
In the Weekend Woodworker course, I'll show you how you get started in any small space with absolutely no experience. I also want to dispel the myth that woodworking is outrageously expensive. So I created a free guide to get all the tools you'll need to get started for less than $1,000. Head over to mytoollist.com and download your free guide today. Simone posted a short, simple video to her YouTube channel on September 15, 2014, in which she showed off a popcorn catapult machine. And by the end of that video, we learned that she was heading out for a burrito. That was about the most American way you could have ended that video.
Which is funny because I'm not American.
I know. Do they have very many taquerias in Sweden?
No, I was living in San Francisco at that point and had just discovered burritos because we didn't really have taquerias in Sweden. And yeah, they're glorious.
Is there an equivalent of something like that you can just run out and get? Is it Swedish Meatballs, or is that just a stereotype?
The only equivalent I can think of, and this is horrible, and I don't eat it because I'm vegetarian, but we have all these like hot dog kiosks, like the little like fast food hot dog. It's just like, it's a kiosk and you can buy hot dogs, and they have, you can buy hot dog in a wrap, like in a wheat wrap, but it's like surrounded by mashed potatoes. So it's hot dog in a pipe of mashed tomatoes in a wrap. And I guess that's it's a very sad equivalent. I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
I've never had one. It sounds absolutely awful.
Well, let's see, now I'm just so hungry for one.
Yeah.
One of those.
Tickets to Stockholm aren't that expensive. Just fly out.
I'm going out to get a burrito after this, I know.
Yeah. No, the burrito is definitely the winning one.
It wouldn't be until about a year later, in August 2015, that she posted the memorable and memeable 8-second long toothbrush machine video showing the intricate nuance of a machine designed to remove the absolute drudgery of manual toothbrushing. That video would come to define much of what Simone's videos would be about, making ridiculous machines that sort of make sense, like an alarm clock that slaps you awake, a breakfast machine that ensures you'll be cleaning up a bunch of Cheerios, and a lipstick applying machine that, you know what, I think I just need one of those. As these short videos spread, it was pretty much impossible not to see them back in 2015 and 16. It wouldn't be long before fans had dubbed her the Queen of Shitty Robots, a title that she embraced, but has kind of moved away from in the past couple of years as she's expanded to building an even wider range of projects, dare I say, some that are even kind of practical. Things like remodeling a trailer, making a coffee table out of burnt matches, and converting a Tesla into a pickup. That was pretty much epic level YouTube right there. All presented in her casual conversational style and wry humor. And sometimes her videos aren't projects, but experiences, like when she got weightless in the Vomit Comet, or talked candidly about her brain surgery. But no matter what type of video she makes, there's a certain relatability to all of them, helping to explain why her channel is so popular. Simone has a beautiful workshop. She's now in LA, where she uses all kinds of materials and techniques to create all kinds of projects, limited only by her imagination. Hey, Simone, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's so awkward to sit and listen to it, and yeah.
I love doing those. I love putting everybody on the spot.
Yeah, but no, this was definitely.
You're gonna have to sit. You're gonna have to sit and listen to all about yourself.
It's like on your birthday, you have to sit and listen to people singing you the birthday song, and you're like,
yeah, the horribly off-key happy birthday song.
Am I supposed to clap along? No, but that was such a nice introduction, and I felt like a very like sometimes you get introduced and you're like, oh, really? Is that me? But I'm like, okay, no, this feels like a very it covers it.
Pretty much sums it up, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, say if somebody's never heard of you, I can't imagine that's the case, but say if you could show somebody only one of your videos that would kind of best sum up what it is you do, what might you show them?
I mean, I wish it was Truckla, the Tesla pickup truck project, because that was like the biggest one. And probably the one that most people have seen, but I don't know if that really sums it up because I haven't been doing a lot of, I've only done some more automotive stuff. It would probably be maybe the puzzle table. So I built a mechanical table that kind of has a tambour top, and it's run by sprockets and chains, and you can switch between tabletops. So I love working on jigsaw puzzles. I don't love the amount of table space they take up. So this way I can like have one table surface that has a jigsaw puzzle, and then I can like lower that down, crank the tambour on top, and have a surface where I can eat dinner, where I can eat my Swedish mashed potato sausage roll.
Hot dog.
Yeah, hot dog roll. Yeah, nothing like that.
My wife does a lot of jigsaw puzzles. I was thinking about making something like that because she has them set up in her. She's got a craft room, and she always has it on a table there. And she'll do like these huge jigsaw puzzles. Inevitably, though, if she'll forget to close the door and the cat jumps in there,
yeah,
she has to just
problem.
spread.
Yeah, but I think that's like, I mean, so as you said, I kind of started out doing shitty robots, and that was always identifying an everyday life problem or like an everyday problem, and then trying to think of the most ridiculous solution to that problem. And what the development has kind of been is that I've gotten older and more boring. And now I'm like, but I still want to have a unique solution to those problems. So like you could have just finish your jigsaw puzzle on a tray and you can put it off to the side whenever you want to have the table space for something else. But I'm always like, how can I solve this in a way that's functional but that people haven't seen before, which I realize is a very high bar to set for yourself. And I spent all of last week, which doesn't happen very often, but all of last week trying to think of a project idea. And I've just been like, I can't think of anything. I've just like scrolled on Pinterest, watched so many YouTube videos, tried to look around my space of like, what do I want to do? And I've definitely felt limited by my own imagination this week.
Do you feel pressure to always be like one-upping yourself?
A little bit, I've kind of, I mean, I bet you know this as well. You get so caught up in what other people's definition of success is. It's like having YouTube videos that hit a lot of numbers, having a strong subscriber growth. And I'm like, is that really success to me? To me, it's like, am I proud of the projects that I'm doing? And did the people who end up watching it like it? Are kind of the two like metrics that I've been trying to fine tune for. But then I'm like, you know, I'm like, but I also need some like bigger projects, something like Truckla, and that can like bring new people in, and that's also like challenging myself, because left to my own devices, I'm like, I just want to make a video about like making custom doorknobs on my lathe. And then I'm like, I can't do that, because it's just not, it's always a balance of like, what's something I want to do and what's something that I think people on YouTube might like doing. And like, there's definitely a big overlap, and that's kind of where I've been trying to exist. But now I'm like, I can't think of anything. I just want to make like small little things for the house.
Do you think that the bar has been raised on YouTube as far as these type of projects? I mean, just in the past couple of years, we've got, and I'm sure you know, like Stuff Made Here and Unnecessary Inventions, or similar kind of things. But it seems like that's kind of the history of YouTube. It seems like no matter what the style or the genre is, you've got to just keep raising that bar, don't you?
Yeah. No, and it's such a moving target. And that's why I'm like, you know, the only really important thing is, I mean, that we're enjoying what we're doing, because people are going to be able to tell if we're genuinely excited about something or if you're just putting it on. And like, I never want to feel like I'm acting like myself. But then it means that when you take some time off and you're like, I'm just going to, for 2 weeks, not know what I want to do. And that has to be okay, because I don't want to do something just for the sake of doing something. I don't know. How are you feeling? So you just took 4 weeks off?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you feeling
from the podcast? From the podcast,
not from the rest of.
Yeah, I did some little things here, but I just think YouTube is just in a strange spot right now. I think things are shifting a lot, and especially with different types of content. And see, you were in early with short form content, making those 10-second videos, 8 years ago, and now here we are again. Did you see recently Tom Scott had a video where he was predicting like the next 10 years of YouTube, and well, not just YouTube, but just like content in general is all going to be short form content.
I didn't see that. I do very much enjoy Tom Scott video though. They're very soothing and informative in the best way. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, TikTok is kind of a wildfire through the internet right now, and I think that's definitely. And I'm trying to, so, I mean, what I did originally was I didn't make videos, I made GIFs. So it was always very gift forward. And I kind of made the project, like that was one of the big parameters that I had for a project, was that you could explain it in a looping GIF with no audio. And that it was easy enough to understand, which I think was a very good way of like honing storytelling in some way. Because it's like, it needs to be so self-explanatory yet novel. And like nobody's going to care if it also has Bluetooth compatibility. Like there are so many little features you could add, but like it's really the core of it that's going to matter, not all the little stuff around it. And then I started doing long form because people were requesting it, or like long form as in like 13-minute videos. And now, it's going down to short form, and now I'm making projects that are not as GIFable. And I don't know. Maybe if I would just have been born 10 years later, it would have been better.
Well, I think there was a combination also for when you started out, and you were real smart to start making a little longer form videos right away, because you kind of got everybody hooked on those short videos, and then you were able to bring your personality into it. And I think it's that combination that has been the successful formula for your channel.
Yeah, I think it's just all about sustainability. And that was also one of the reasons for me to kind of pivot from only doing shitty robots into doing other projects. Because I'm like, it's not like, if you're like, it's so good to have a very narrow topic that you do, or like where the story of who you are is so easy to tell. For me, it was, I'm the queen of shitty robots. Like, I'm the girl who builds shitty robots. And that's such an easy headline for journalists to write about. It's such an easy concept for people to understand. But if you only keep on doing that narrow stuff, then it's eventually going to go out, and you need to broaden it. And it's always, you lose some things, or like some people along the way, or some followers, and that's fine, but it's really it's really like establishing it broader and having more feet to stand on. And that's why it's been like, it is about building stuff like my YouTube channel, but it is also to some small aspect about my life. Even though I don't vlog. Oh, here's a helicopter. Let's just hold for this helicopter for a second.
I don't hear it.
Yeah, I think you're gonna hear it on.
You got a good microphone. It's not picking up the helicopter.
No, this is coming.
You're in an audio bubble there, right?
So there's the amount of starting and stopping I have to do in my videos.
Oh, yeah. Where I live, it's usually leaf blowers in the neighborhood. Guys with leaf blowers. Although they're going to ban those here where I live.
Wait, what? Why?
Marin County, it's going to be only electric ones. You can't use the gas-powered leaf blowers
because
anymore.
Of pollution? But I mean, the electric ones are still loud. I have a giant Makita one.
Yeah, they are. They have a different type of loud. It's that whirring, like
it's not the
hair blow dryer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, why did you abandon us all here in the Bay Area and move to LA?
Because you didn't reply to my DM and you didn't want to hang out.
I was just being a diva. No, I told you. I was telling her before the podcast. This looks really bad on me that I didn't know about DMing on Instagram until like fairly recently. It was really embarrassing.
I know. I find it in some way like really comforting and endearing. Like, it's okay to be a social media person and you're not on top of it all.
It was so stupid. It's my friend Chad, who I do the other podcast with, and this was probably a year and a half ago, and he was like, well, we should just DM people. That's the easiest way to get a hold of people. I'm like, yeah, well, oh, wait, you mean Instagram? Hey, you can do that? And I said, how do I even find that online? And I looked through it, and there's like all these messages from people DMing me going back years. And I'm like, oh, man. They all just think I'm like the biggest.
No, I think,
idiot now.
I mean, so I sent you a DM a couple of years ago being like, hey, I'm also in the Bay Area. Do you want to hang?
I know.
Because it's an area where not a lot of people in our industry are. Like, it was you, the Tested crew, and like Mark Rober. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, and that was one of the reasons. Yeah, it was just, I mean, for one, like, I had lived in San Francisco 5 or 6 years, which I think is kind of the time where a lot of people are like, ugh. I feel like people live there for 5 years. I lived in Bernal Heights.
Oh, okay. I lived out in the Richmond district for like 10 years.
Love Bernal Heights. I had the cutest little house, was right by the hill, was so easy to walk my dog everywhere. But, it's one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Yeah, it is.
You're like, there's no work for me here, really. Like, there's no real reason for me to stay here work-wise. There's so many more people in LA. And then I managed to find this, like, really cute little house with a workshop in the back that kind of just magically ticked all the boxes for me. And I got it for under asking. I don't know. It just felt like, it was, it just happened really quickly. And then I moved here during the pandemic and I've made no friends.
I know.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I want to go here and I want to like meet people and like get inspired. And then it's just me and my dog in my workshop, and we go to the park and we talk to dog owners about how often our dogs poop.
We all just get into these routines like that. It's about all you can do. But
yeah.
I was hearing where like a lot of YouTubers are moving from LA to New York now. That seems to be the trend.
Oh, really?
Moving out of LA. I don't know why that is. Well, there's a lot of people leaving California.
I think people just during the pandemic, it was really everyone's like longing for change in some way.
Yeah.
I would not want to live in New York though. It's big cities like stress me out so much. I'm rather like the other direction, where I would want to move to Northern California and get a ranch somewhere and like have a goat maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is the benefit of making things? I know you had a TED Talk I saw for a while back, and I think that one of the things you said was it's fun to make things because the stakes are low.
Really?
Making useless things,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think making I think generally when people want to start making things, they set the bar too high. And that's also now when I've been fretting about what project I should do and really struggling coming up with ideas, I know it's because I've set the bar too high for myself. And I think building useless things was a really nice way to take a lot of pressure off of myself. It was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be funny. It has to be something that I'm interested in exploring or that I think would make for an interesting visual or funny visual. But yeah, I think for me, like making things, it's just so empowering. Like looking at something and being like, yeah, I could make that. I could repair that. Or the feeling of like holding something in your hand that just a couple of days ago was just a note on a piece of paper. It just never ceases to blow my mind. It's so, yeah, I think empowering is really the best word that I can find to describe it.
Have you always been that way since you were a child? Were you making things, designing things?
I was making things when I was a kid, and I was very, dare I say that I was very creative, or I was always like up to projects. But then I kind of fell out of it, and I really wanted to learn how to build things. But I mean, as you probably know, as somebody who like helps guide people through like those initial steps, it's like the barrier of entry can feel really high. It can kind of feel like a gear sport where it's like you need a space, you need all the tools, you need all the things. And it's really hard to justify starting to build something sometimes. Like that's like kind of one of the fallacies that I've noticed of it is like you have to have a reason why you're building something. And I'm like, but you don't have to have a reason why you're scrolling on your phone. And like creating things always is higher value than like consuming content. So for me, it was kind of like breaking that of like, no, I just, it's a good use of my time. Even if I don't have an end goal with the project I'm building, it's a good use of my time because I'm doing something, I'm learning something. And for me, it was, I was just like, I need to be in a context where I'm kind of forced to build things. And luckily I was broke, needed a place to stay, didn't like the rental market in Stockholm is crazy. I couldn't afford to buy an apartment, but I had just enough money to buy a houseboat. So honestly, that was kind of where I started rediscovering making things because you're on a houseboat, everything needs to be custom. Like you can't buy furniture for a houseboat because all your walls are bent and nothing's straight and everything is weird and crooked. And yeah, so that was a great way to force me, not force me, but it kind of put me in a situation where I had to.
Do you ever find yourself now where you have things that you want to make or need to make, say just something for your house, but you're in the position of like, well, yeah, but it's not crazy enough for YouTube, and so then you have to divide your time up a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, I mean, once again, where I'm talking about like the overlap, and I think it's so fun to create things for YouTube. It gives you so much freedom, but there is always like this kind of balancing act of, yes, it does have to have a catchy title and thumbnail. That has to have something that I think people are interested in. And mostly it's like, I feel so apologetic about taking people's time.
Really?
Where it's like, I don't know how to explain this. Like I couldn't just upload a video that I don't think is worth watching myself. And I feel bad. Like I wouldn't want to, I don't know. I think that's one of the things that other people on YouTube do, and which is great for growth, is like just putting out a lot of content. It might not be things that you're like, wow, I'm super proud of this, or wow, I really think this is worth watching. But for me, I've just always been like, no, if I'm actually going to justify people spending 17 minutes watching this video, I need to make sure it's really tight and that it's good and it's an interesting project. It has good jokes in it. It has fast editing, good music. So I think that's been, it's a real challenge for me of like setting the bar for the content pretty high. And that does weed out a lot of project ideas. I was talking to Laura Kampf. We were just spitballing. She's like, Simone, you reject so many ideas because you don't think it would be good enough for YouTube. Just do them and see how people react. Like I have these 6 chairs that I want to buy off of Craigslist and like refurbish them. And I'm like, I could never make that into video. But then of course I could. Like we decide what we want to make and then hopefully people will be down to watch it. But Yeah. I don't know. What do you watch on YouTube?
Oh, well, I watch all kinds of content, mostly not maker and woodworking content or anything. You're probably similar. You probably just watch all kinds of things. What do you like to watch?
Not much.
Really? You don't consume a lot of YouTube?
No, I mean, there's some like female comedians or like that I really like watching, or like some comedy channels, and then I'm like, I'll watch everything they put out. But not
Don't
really.
you feel like you can learn a lot more about making videos by watching people outside of your own genre, sort of?
No, for sure.
I think that's true. I watch like movie reviews and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and I just love that stuff. Or like video analysis, essays and things. I really like that kind of content.
Yeah.
Just deep dives into things. What's your team like, and how do you, when you come up with an idea, is that something, do you like throw that around with other people other than Laura trying to convince you to do it?
Not really, or it depends. So I mean, my team, it kind of fluctuates. I have 2 full-time employees. One who's my assistant producer, everything person, Anna, who's here in LA with me. And then I have Avis, who's the chief operating officer of my product company that we're still starting, or we're looking to launch. So we're currently set for mid-March. We're going to open our store, which I'm really excited about. That's kind of been my future bet. Like, you can't hinge your future on YouTube, and like, I also want to find ways to take some of the pressure off and of myself, and have something that can kind of run independently of me. So I'm starting this product brand that I'm really excited about, and that will have some of the projects that I built. But yeah, what kind of products? It's going to be, I mean, the overarching theme is unique solutions to everyday problems. So it's kind of in the same vein of YouTube projects. Currently, we're going to launch with 5 products. One of them being the everyday calendar that I did a Kickstarter for. It's a habit tracker calendar, like a little gold star system. But then and then 4 other products, and it was kind of just like the easiest products that we had in the pipeline that we could do, because manufacturing is so complicated. In some way it's like, it's switching such a simple, like being an influencer is such an easy business model in many ways, and manufacturing is so complicated. But I really think for me, that's just been what motivates me. And like, I think for social media, like, and having a following or everything, it's like, it's not an end goal in itself. For me, it's always been like, what do I want to use this for? And for me, it's been, launching this product brand. So those are the 2 full-time employees. But then I've started working. So like last year, I started working with an engineer who's in the UK. His name is Stu. And he's kind of been like my creative engineering partner in a lot of projects, which has been so fun. I've had a lot of anxiety around getting like project help from people. There's a lot of pride in doing everything yourself, and you kind of want to have like this impeccable track record of like, no, I put in every screw myself. Nobody can question that I did this. And but then I've like really enjoyed working with other people, because you learn so much. You end up doing things that you wouldn't normally do. I'm able to take on, like, I would have really struggled doing the puzzle table by myself, for example, because the amount of modeling that we had to do with it to figure out the sprocket to gear ratio to the bike chain, and everything, all the details, I really needed help. And it was so he's kind of been the person where I'm like, I have an idea, can we spitball different ways we could solve this problem?
Yeah, Trucklow is another good example of a real collaborative approach to making that thing.
Yeah. And I think it's like, there's kind of this myth of, or like, a lot of people do things completely by themselves, and that's great. But I also think there's no shame in having, like, collaborating with people. And I felt a lot of shame around it, or like, and I'm always like too transparent about it. because but I think honestly, I think it's a part of like imposter syndrome, or like being maybe not somebody that people would typically think of as a builder. It's just, you know, I always have to, like, I'm always scared that people are going to be like, oh, there's just like a guy behind her doing all the work. So if I ever get help, I'm like, this person put in one screw, and I just want to acknowledge that so nobody can call me out on it later. Yeah, you kind of overcorrect in the other direction.
Yeah. Do you feel a sense of anxiety when you push the publish button on a video? I mean, you have a video like maybe once a month sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, once a month is a pretty good amount for me. It's like, sometimes it's just a couple of them a year. Yeah. I religiously read the comments for the first hour just to make sure that there's nothing like unintentionally offensive about it. Because that's always my fear, that there's going to be like, oh my God, Simone, I can't believe you did that.
That
and
one
I'm like, wait,
thing
I did
somebody
what?
will find.
I did what? Yeah. And I mean, sometimes they're intentionally offensive, and then it's fine. But yeah, just the thought of like making somebody sad without intending to is.
Yeah. Well, I think your audience really, in general, I mean, you have a very supportive audience.
Oh, they're so sweet.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure you don't get much.
No, they're so sweet. It's kind of in this weird balance that I'm always scared. And honestly, I think that's a part of the reason why I haven't been uploading that much, because I'm so scared of disturbing that balance in some way, because people are really nice and supportive now, and you're like, I need to make sure that I don't give them a reason to start hating me. And I really remember that after I came back from brain surgery, I felt, because I got so much support and people were so sweet, and I felt like I was up on this like weird pedestal, and I'm like, I can't just make a ass wiping robot after this.
Right.
I don't know. It was really hard to bring it back to like everyday life, and yeah.
And that was the kind of thing you almost had to share that. It would have been weird not to kind of share that. Did you feel you were real open about your health at the time and what was going, and as somebody who had his own bout with cancer about 10 years ago, when I had it and shared it on YouTube, it was really scary to share that. I thought that, and I made a project with it. I destroyed the project, and I don't know, after some distance, you've had some distance now since all of that. Well, first, how's your health? I hope it's doing well. And second, what have you, I don't know, has it changed your life in any ways?
I think so my health is good. I'm not allowed to do headstands. But that's fine. I can live with that. I think it's for me, there wasn't really a question of like, should I share it or not? Or I didn't feel pressured to it. I think it would have been hard to skirt around. But I also, the way I feel like when you're posed with something big like that, I don't know how you reacted, but for me, it was like, I wanted to tell everybody.
Yeah.
Like I remember.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too. Yeah.
I remember being like, I need to stop telling waitresses that I have a brain tumor. Because I was like, hey, how are you doing today? I'm like, great, I have a brain tumor, but I would love an avocado toast, you know? And I'm like, why do I do that? But it was like, I was so just sucked up in this, and it was so overwhelming. And it was almost a way to like, I don't know, I gauged other people's reactions to it to calibrate my own feelings about it, because I couldn't think straight about it. I was like, is this the biggest thing? Is this nothing? Is this super scary? Is it funny? Is it sad? Is it, I don't know. You're just thrown between emotions, and like seeing how other people react, it was somehow like, okay, I think this is a big thing. But it was
it's hard to describe that feeling when you first get this information, and there's just it's a flood of things that you've got to kind of like try to sort through.
Yeah, I remember it feeling like somebody had dropped a giant building in my head. And I kept on trying to walk around it and see it, like get a perspective where I saw the whole thing. But you just keep seeing little sections of it. And for some sections, yeah, it does look really scary. Some it looks sad. Some you're angry. Some you're just laughing and like, how fucking bizarre is this? I have a brain tumor the size of a golf ball. What the fuck? So yeah, it's all consuming when you get something like that, for me at least. And so being able to like scream on top of a YouTube mountain about it was so cathartic. And it was also a way that I could regain some control over the situation. Cause I'm like, this is something that is so incredibly out of control, but at least I can control how I tell the story about it. And I remember that was actually, it wasn't like, oh no, I need to tell people. It's like, oh, I've never made a video as fast. Like, I mean, I waited about a week before I did it, but I wrote the script in like 20 minutes, filmed it, edited it. I had it done in an afternoon because it was just like running, like streaming out of me.
I did the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so cathartic in many ways. How do you feel have you rewatched those videos?
I can't.
No.
It's been a while since I probably a few years ago I might have watched it. I just made the one video kind of describing what was happening, and then I made a project which I destroyed. It was very symbolic and artistic, I thought at the time, but it was just something I had to do.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it a few years ago again, and just, I don't know, just kind of reliving that time and thinking, wow, it doesn't feel like me anymore. This has been a little over 10 years now, and I started in YouTube in 2008, and this was like 2010, so that's almost 12 years now, I guess that's been. And it was just really a weird time, I think, all in all, to do that. Has it changed your life?
Yeah.
Since then?
A lot.
In what way?
I think for the better. I mean, and this is also speaking as somebody who's came out fine. Like, I got no brain damage. I mean, it's been a long recovery road, and I went through radiation treatment, and it definitely it took maybe 3 years to feel like I was back to mostly normal. But it just, it just really forces you to think about your life in not a critical way, but in a way of like, is this really what I want to be doing? And that was what started the pivot from like shitty robots, because it was also like I was very sad during that time and was going through something that was had a lot of bright moments, but also was incredibly dark. And I'm like, I don't want to make a robot that throws something in my face. Like, I'm not feeling up for it. And it was a way for me to kind of pivot and discover other things that I wanted to do. And I think also just take some pressure off of work. I had just because I'd been in this like really intense internet virality, like hamster wheel. And it's really stressful. It was because I had a lot of things blow up online, and you're like I was still living in Sweden, and I was up at 3 a.m. doing some interview at some American TV show, and then you like close the computer and you're like in your living room and it's night and everything is quiet. I don't know. It was just a weird time, and you're feeling so stressed about like needing to maintain this pace that you're on, or like constantly needing to put more fuel in, and it forced me to be like, no, it's okay to step away. It's okay to do other things. I mean, with that said, I think I only take like a month or two off of work, and then I was like, okay, let's get back into it. But yeah, I think it has made me have a healthier balance.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's kind of the way it was with me. It took a while for everybody. You hear people say that, oh, when you have like some sort of huge medical issue, it's going to be a life-changing event. And you think that's going to kind of happen right away. But at least for me, it was like a year or two later when it kind of like hit me. It was like, damn, I was really close to death.
Yeah.
And then it put everything into perspective, and it totally changed my life. It turned it around. I got healthy. I stopped drinking, started eating right. Everything just like changed it. So
yeah.
I guess if there was some good to come out of it. Oh, and then in your case, now when you go to that diner or if somebody complains, oh, I'm having a bad day or something, you can say, I had a brain tumor. I can one up you.
I still use it as a cop out for some things. Or like if I lose in a game, I'll be like, "Oh, good job, you beat brain tumor girl," which is really, awful. Really. I'm so sorry that I do that, but it's great. If that's the one thing I can. Yeah, I think it really it's definitely changes your life, but in some way it also doesn't change your life. And I remember I missed my 3-year anniversary of my surgery because I just forgot about it, and I was like, oh wow, but I promised that I was never going to take things for granted and always be grateful for being healthy, and then I was like, no, this is a part of the recovery process as well, of just being back to normal and being grumpy about some everyday thing, and then but also having that reality check of I am so lucky that I'm fine and that I got out of it.
Yeah, it's just a facing of your own mortality, I guess. Just kind of helps put things into perspective, I guess. No,
and if you ever want to feel young, go to the waiting room in a neurology department. And I was there and I was I 27? And every doctor's like, wow, we've never had a patient this young with this problem. You're like, yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
I like getting started early. Yeah. What should I build?
You know what you got to do? Build something. Well, you already did for Commander Scraps.
Yeah.
I love Commander Scraps, your dog. And you know what's cool about Commander Scraps is he's got she's got her own Instagram. See, I started an Instagram for our 2 cats. We got 2 cats in early 2020, and so we have the Cobra and Bubbles Instagram
Good
page.
Names. Yeah. I feel like I've done so many projects for her. She's kind of been my build muse.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I need to space out the dog content, but also I love dogs. They're so much fun. Yeah. I have been thinking about wanting to make a treat dispensing collar, because there are negative reinforcement collars that shock your dog or vibrate or whatever. But I'm like, I want to be able to reward her from afar and have something that dispenses a little treat. But that's a really challenging build. Because it needs to, she's tiny. She has the tiniest neck. It's not a lot of real estate that she gives me. It's something that's the circumference, and it needs to have a battery and a motor or whatever. But yeah, that's been one of the dog projects that I've been thinking about. I can look at my list of rejected project ideas. Do you have one of these too?
I've got a list of so many things, and the rejected ones. What's the most ridiculous one you rejected?
Let me see. I'll go to the bottom of it.
Sometimes I'll come up with an idea and I'll jot it down. I've got this huge list, and then I'll go back. It could be a year or 2 later, and I'll read it and I'm like, what the hell? What was that? I don't even know what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's the nature of brainstorm.
Yeah, what are the weirdest ones? Okay, this is erection whack-a-mole is one of them. I have no idea what I thought about that.
It sort of reminds me of the what was the anti-pussy grabber?
Oh, wow. You've done some research. Yeah, I did a pussy grabs back machine when Trump won the presidential election. And it was just a mouse trap with a forearm and a hand, and it would boop,
that was the
back
funniest.
Into the other person's crotch. Yeah, this was Laura. I wanted to do an instant noodle brain, just noodles that were the shape of a brain. I don't know. That would not be. But yeah, it's so, and the last week, all I was thinking about, I wrote down some ideas when I was fretting about what to do. Anti-frown patch, but something that shocks you when you frown. But then I saw online, there's a bunch of anti-frown patches that you can sleep with and that help smooth out your forehead, because you do not want anyone to know that you've aged.
No,
yeah, and I wanted to make, I don't have that many. I'm fretting.
You're just in one of those. You sound like you're in a funk right now.
I'm in a funk. Yeah.
With what to make, huh? We'll come up with some ideas. I'll
Yeah.
ask people, and they'll leave a comment and
Yeah.
come up with all kinds of things that you can just reject, because there'll be ridiculous things that are just, they don't make any sense.
No, I think I've never had an idea or like actually done another idea or an idea that somebody else had. But you see something, you're like, no, I don't want to do that. But that inspired this other idea. Like if I did that, then I would do it like this. And then you're like, oh, actually, that's pretty good.
It's the kind of comments that a lot of times I get where they start with "you should,"
Oh,
whatever.
no.
I'm like, no, it's not really what I want. How did you learn all the electronics and all of the stuff that you've got so many different disciplines that you use to make your projects?
No, a little bit about a lot of things, but not very in depth. So I started getting interested in programming, and I was just building a lot of ridiculous websites. One of them being Screen Shaver. That was, for me, mispronouncing screensaver, and it like turned your cursor into a razor blade, and the whole screen there just starts growing hair, and you get to shave it off as it grows. I remember doing Click Roulette, which was like this Chrome extension. It turned your cursor into a little revolver, and it would only, if you clicked a link, it would only click 1 out of 7 times. So you could be like, should I buy this? Turn on Click Roulette and click buy this, and only 1 out of 7 times it would actually click it. So I kind of started doing a lot of those things, and then I started getting interested in electronics, and I was like, okay, should I go back to school and become an electrical engineer? Because I remember seeing this woman, Ellen Sund, in Stockholm. She gave a talk about hardware hacking, and it just blew my mind. And it was like, this is so cool. And I got an Arduino kit, and the first time I managed to blink an LED, it felt magical. So I was like, okay, should I go back to school and learn this? And I started applying to MIT for electrical engineering, but then I was like, maybe I can get paid to learn this. So I managed to get an internship at an electronics company in San Francisco. So that was the first time I moved out there. So I got so lucky. My job was to be, or my internship / job, was to be a maker in residence. So my job was just to find fun use cases for this microcontroller that they have. It was a Bluetooth Arduino called the Light Blue Bean. And I wrote tutorials, I made instructables, and it was kind of the best way to learn about electronics because I was in a team of electrical engineers. And the way I pitched it, which is a job applying tip, was I was like, okay, how can I possibly pitch to them to hire somebody who doesn't know shit? And I was like, okay, but your entire team is electrical engineers. The target group for your products is everybody in a broad set of makers, a lot of people who are not engineers. You need somebody on the team who can be the one who's like, this is going to be really hard to understand for normal people. And I kind of set myself as that gatekeeper, which worked out great. So I just built a lot of projects, had a team of engineers that I could ask stupid questions to, and they were very graceful about it. And then on the side, I started building shitty robots, and then I came on a podcast with you. A multitude of years later.
A multitude of years, yeah. It was those first videos though that really like changed your life, wasn't it? Just those short little videos, and they were being spread around. You could not be online without seeing those videos.
I think some corners of the internet, they definitely got spread around. But no.
Do you think that was like peak? I always like to ask people this who've been around a while. When do you think was like peak YouTube?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe back then. I think now, yeah, it feels like YouTube and all social media platforms are kind of struggling with finding their identity in the wake of TikTok. I mean, I see my Instagram feed, and it's like 70% reels. I'm like, where are the photos? I don't want to watch videos on Instagram.
Yeah, you want to know what? I just uploaded my first reel yesterday.
Yeah. How was it?
Because everybody's saying, you got to do reels. You got to do reels. Well, I just uploaded a video I've been doing these YouTube shorts, so I just uploaded the same thing to there. And people seem to like it, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just like grinding my wheels at all the social media, is it just busy work, or am I gaining much from it,
Yeah, I think it's because I'm also like, what my manager, because I'm like, I don't tweet enough, or I don't do Instagram enough. And you're like, I mean, in the reality, if you only see it purely as a business, like Instagram and Twitter has never really paid much. I don't think I've ever. It's always just something for all of you who are interested. Like a tweet is more something you throw in negotiations, where it's like, okay, if you sponsor this video, we'll also put in a tweet or an Instagram story. But it's never. I've only had like 1 or 2 campaigns that I've done purely for Instagram. So it's really like the other stuff doesn't really give you that much other than have a way to share, like keep things afloat and kind of keep your space in people's feeds.
Yeah.
But it's also so different. I mean, especially since we're both YouTube forward or like YouTube first. Like if we were fashion people, then like Instagram would obviously be really important. But I don't know.
Hey, what makes you think I'm not a fashion person?
I'm sorry. Maybe you are. No. Or maybe you do drag on the weekends. Wouldn't that be fun?
That's why I want that. That's why I need that lipstick machine.
Yeah. Oh, it all makes sense now. Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be a fun video collaboration.
That would.
Yeah. No.
Is there any of those older projects, any projects that you've made that you ever think about revisiting or would like to redo?
I have been thinking about that, and that's actually one of the things I thought about last week. So the first hardware projects that I built, like kind of transitioning from just programming to also doing physical things, was I made this incredibly elaborate school project. It was with a friend of mine, Jonathan, and I wanted to make an iPhone case with guitar strings. So it kind of was this iPhone case. It had all this mechanism inside. You could pull out the guitar strings. It had a little clip so you could clip it to your belt.
Oh, nice.
Then I programmed an iOS app, and you could hold the cord on the screen, and then it measured the capacitive touch in the strings. So if you touched one of the strings, it played the coherent sound, sent it to the phone over Bluetooth. It was incredibly elaborate. I cannot believe I pulled it off. But that would be fun to revisit, because I remember... I mean, it was such a challenging build for me then, both programming-wise and hardware-wise. And I think I could do it better now. But, yeah, have you ever done that? But I feel like you were just born skilled. You just came out of the womb with, like, chisels, and you're like, yes, let me do this. Like, there's no...
I have found value in rebuilding some earlier YouTube projects that I did, and mostly it's because I was really crappy at making video. I still am. I'm still not really good at making videos, but at least now I have a proper camera, Well, even that's not really that good. But yeah, I have found value that my skills in building things has improved, and then my skills in making videos has improved. So there's been a few where I've remade things. Yeah, I think there's a certain value to that, I suppose. But
you started, because like my first YouTube video, or like I have learned I've learned on YouTube.
Yeah. Like
it's really like almost my whole build progression has almost happened like in front of a camera. So I think that's why it would be fun to revisit, because like a lot of things have happened since then. But you, like, what's your origin story? What did you do before?
I'd been making things my whole life since I was a kid, building things out of wood. But it was really YouTube is where it just ramped it all up, because then for a long time I was making projects every week, and it's just like anything else. It's just sheer reps. The more you do something, the better, the faster you're going to get at doing it, and the more. The more, I think the biggest thing is knowing what to look out for and what things might happen, being aware of those so you don't have to encounter those as you're doing them.
Just a little bit less naive, being like, oh, I can't see how this could go wrong. You're like, I can see so many ways that this could go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you probably have a good sense of that too. A pretty good sense of what are going to be the pitfalls here.
Yeah, I think, but then there are always some that surprise you.
What drives you to keep creating YouTube content?
Right now, I don't know. It just, like, as you said, I've been in a little bit of a rut just this week. Yeah. Usually I'm pretty excited about things. But, it just blows my mind that it's even possible to be unmotivated, because it's like we have such dream jobs.
It is.
And we're kind of at the helm of our own. Yeah. And it's like...
It's the number one job that kids want now, as a YouTuber.
Yeah. I bet TikToker is going to take that over soon. But yeah, but a
Probably.
social media person. I mean, and it's so, and like we have hundreds of thousands of people who'd want to listen to what we have to say. Like that, if that doesn't motivate you, then what would? And I can't believe that you can still like struggle with motivation, which might be comforting for other people to hear. Like no matter what job you have, you're going to be in a rut and sometimes be like, ugh, what am I doing? But for me, it's really like, the main thing that has kept me motivated and kept me wanting to do YouTube is like seeing like what is my end goal with this, because my goal has never been to be like the biggest YouTuber or anything like that. It's always like, what do I want to use this for? And it's the same of like making money, and it's like, what would I want to make money for? Like you don't just get it for the sake of getting it. It's always it's a means to an end. It's not an end goal for me. So yeah, it's just been for like I'm super stoked with this product business. It feels like a way for two companies to really support each other and kind of dovetail perfectly, because YouTube is such a great way to have an excuse to constantly make new things and have to push yourself to trying new things. So it's kind of like a already little R&D department, and I can, and also like early audience testing. So I'll make something on YouTube. I'll see how people react to it. If I get a bunch of the like, shut up and take my money gifts, and then I can push it over to the product business. And then once we've finished out manufacturing and doing the design for manufacturing everything, I can kind of push it back to YouTube and use that to promote the product. So it's kind of been a perfect combination of companies. And that's been what's motivating me a lot. It's like, oh, this is actually a tool that I can use to kind of have more longevity in my career. Because I don't know how you feel, but I'm like, I don't want to do YouTube until I'm 60. I want to.
Yeah, I think
I want to
that
do other
YouTube
things.
Well, I'm going to be 60 in 5 years.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I tried to pad it a little bit. I don't want to do YouTube until I'm 80.
But you know, I think YouTube will always be a component, but I mean, it's always
Or social media as a broad, because like you can't depend on
I
YouTube
think it's
as a
important
platform.
It's important to do what you have always done, and that's evolve and change and try new things. And I think that you'll see some of these YouTube channels and YouTubers who sometimes I forget about a channel, and I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, are they still around? And I'll look, and they're still producing content, but it's exactly the same as it was, 8 years ago or something. And the channel just slowly starts to decline. For me, it's just a matter of trying, like this podcast, trying something new that really gets me excited, because it's like, this podcast is in some ways the way I felt back in 2008 YouTube. It's just something new and exciting and different,
Yeah. Would you ever, if you had to get another job, what would it be?
Well, the question sometimes I get asked is, what type of YouTube would I do? That's probably a more basic question people ask. And if it were up to me, it would have something to do with movies. I would review movies and write movie essays and things. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
I would love to do that. I don't know if you can make much money as an essayist, but I don't,
I mean, you
what
slam
about
dunk
you?
one long shot already. I mean, if I had a do-over, like I wanted to study animal behavior, and that's something I've actually been thinking about if I could incorporate into YouTube. Like that's the good thing about it. It's kind of, if you can shoehorn whatever you're interested into it. But I really wanted to study animal behavior. I love projects where there are different, like really smart and unintrusive ways of measuring animal intelligence and trying to understand how they problem solve. Like how to know how far crows can count. What they did, I don't know who did this. I'm probably getting it wrong, but they had a building, and there was something in the building that the crows really wanted, a food item or something like that. They had one person walk into the building, the crows did not fly in. And then one person walk out, the crows did fly in. So like, okay, they can subtract one from one. They can be like, okay, one person went in, one person came out, the building's empty. They had two people come in, one person go out, the crows still did not fly in. So they're like, okay, they can subtract one from two and be like, no, there's still a person in there. And I think it was once there was 3 people there and 2 came out, then they did fly in and they were like, okay, it's empty now. So like just things of that. It's so animal friendly and just really smart. I mean, like, how do you measure how far an animal can count? And I think that's something where I'm like, can I incorporate that into YouTube somewhere? Could I build devices to, like, I saw there was this Swedish guy who's built these like really elaborate contraptions to get the ravens or crows in his neighborhood to collect the little bottle caps for him. And then it dispenses little peanuts. And that's something I've really been trying to think of. There's so much wildlife here. I have possums and raccoons and skunks. My dog just came back from her bark. Yeah. But there's just so much wildlife. And I'm like, is there a way to, I mean, in similar, like Mark Rober's Labyrinth for the squirrels, like stuff like that. But there's always the balancing act of like, you don't want to disturb wildlife. You don't want to get them food dependent on whatever it is you're providing. But that's something I've been thinking of, like, that I would really want to do. Hi, I'm still on the podcast. Would you want it? Yeah. Good. So Anna's still back. It just got back. Hi. Oh, did you give me a coffee? Marco said, oh, thank you so much. They just came with a coffee. That is so nice. Yeah.
You've got a great group of people there.
Oh, they're so sweet. They're very, very sweet. But yeah, that's been something I've been thinking of if I could incorporate and kind of like, and I think also that is the part of like longevity, both for yourself, but also for your audience, is like have it follow your actual interest, even if it's a weird turn, because more people are going to be down. Like what I realized for me is that like, I have the nicest audience and they're just excited about seeing me excited, which is a really great premise to be working out of. So
it is. It's real fun to watch you and watch how you get excited in your videos and how these new discoveries you make in every video, and it's very relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember I did for Tested, it's another YouTube channel. They did like a tools review of the year, or where it's like your favorite new finds, and like many years ago mine was pop rivets, and I was just pumped about pop rivets. And I remember getting so many comments of people being like, really, it's fucking pop rivets, we've known about them for years. And I'm like, but I'm discovering them for the first time, and they're dope. Like they can do so much. You need to attach two things and you just put a pop rivet and it's just there.
See? Yeah, it's great to have that level of everything is new and exciting, you know?
Yeah.
Let me do a quick tier list with you here, okay? Mm-hmm. Everybody's doing tier lists. You don't actually have to rank these. I'm going to give you 4 things. Comedian, engineer, entertainer, entrepreneur. That's you. How would you rank those?
Entrepreneur. Wait, comedian, engineer, inventor?
Entertainer.
Entrepreneur, entrepreneur, entertainer, engineer, comedian. I feel icky about claiming engineer because I'm not technically an engineer, but I also don't think it's a protective term like doctor. Yeah. Like you can kind of just say, I do some engineering, but I'm not an engineer by trade.
Do you have any big plans for 2022?
I mean, launching the product business is going to be huge. I hope. I think we're going to launch it and then I'm going to flail and not know really what to do with it. But that's been a really big focus, and I'm hoping end of 2022 or early 2023, the product business will be able to stand on its own 2 legs economically, and it will actually be worthy of like being the main focus, because now it's just been this like early investment. I mean, it's just, yeah, we'll see. But that one's going to be big. I also, but other than that, it's like a little bit of a black box. I just want to feel what's next for me. I would love to work on a show. I would love to do more long form. It's something I've shied away from for a long time because it's so comfortable being on YouTube and you follow your own whims and everything. But I would really want to discover what another format to work in and to like get to spend more time on different projects and just make a really thoughtful show of some sort. I would want it
How about doing another sitcom?
Yeah. Are you referring my Chinese Chinese
What were you,
sitcom?
like 16 or something? It was like the most awkward thing. You were playing
17,
You were playing somebody's wife, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awful. I actually just started taking Mandarin classes again, which has been really fun because we're manufacturing in China and working with a lot of Chinese partners. Yeah. And not that my Mandarin would get to a level where I could actually take those meetings in Mandarin, but it's always like a nice show of goodwill of like, hey, I've actually like gone through a lot of trouble to learn Mandarin. But yeah, I showed that video to my Mandarin tutor and she couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, really?
She was very sweet about it. Yeah, she was like, oh, you did so good, like under the circumstances. I'm just proud I didn't run away and cry. Yeah.
that was really funny. Yeah. Well, Simone, wow, this hour has gone by very fast.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at us.
I want to thank you, though, for joining me on this podcast. And I also want to thank you just for all the years of providing such entertaining and creative content. I think that you've just brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you have kept me safe whenever I learn a new tool. I'm always like, what does he tell me I should not do? Like, table saws are terrifying. Knife. Yeah, what should I not do? No, you're very much my sanity check whenever I learn something new that feels scary.
Great. Well, it was great talking to you, and I wish you all the best in the new year and for your product line. We'll have to have you back on so we can talk about that too.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of the Woodworking Talk Show. If you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave one of those 5-star ratings because, I don't know, I guess it does something, but it gives you something to click.
Leaving a rating is for free.
I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.